Hello everyone, I'm Bruffy1322 and this video is going to show the fastest fully upgraded vehicles in the GTA Online Muscle Cars class in terms of lap time. As always, the position counter is in the top left with the best lap time the vehicle achieved in the top right, and for this 2020 series I'll be showcasing the non-raceable vehicles first. So even though, for example, the Imperator is in the Muscle Cars class and has the best lap time overall, since it can't be used in regular muscle car races, it's not going to be included in the main list. We start the regular raceable vehicles list with the Slam Van in 56th place overall. This video only focuses on track performance, so if you're interested in top speed, where braking, cornering and acceleration aren't relevant, check the link in the description for the top speed testing series, and if you want to know more information about this testing, including the extent to which it's accurate and how useful it is for you personally, have a read of the full description as everything that you need is in there. This video lists all vehicles and is correct as of the Los Santos Summer Special update. For any muscle cars added after that or other classes of cars, check the playlist linked in the second line of the description, and feel free to check out my Patreon or become a YouTube member if you want to support this work and get testing results of any new cars a little bit early. So, as mentioned, we've got 6 non-raceable vehicles, many of which are Arena War vehicles and only get the lap times that they do thanks to the extra nitrous boost upgrades that they have access to. But we don't need to worry about those because, as I said, with these 2020 videos, we leave them at the front and just talk about raceable vehicles for the rest of the video. But even without those non-raceable vehicles, the muscle cars class would still be the second largest class after sports with 56 regular cars. It's so big for pretty much the same reason as the sports class, as it tends to end up being the place where a lot of cars get placed that could have easily gone elsewhere. The Moonbeam is the perfect example of that. Really, it should be in the Vans class, don't know why it's in Muscle, but that is symptomatic of a lot of vehicles that are both in the Muscle Cars class and the Sports class, and it's no surprise that those are the two classes that end up being the biggest and really far too big. So, with so many regular cars, there is of course a lot of variance in both vehicle type and lap time as well, especially from the very bottom to the very top. We see the Slam Van in 56th place with quite a bad lap time, and we're going to get pretty good lap times at the very top. So there's a wide variety of vehicles and a wide variety of lap times that we're going to see throughout the list. Now, this 2020 video has been a long time coming, to be honest. I was waiting for a new DLC to come back in March of this year, or April, after the Multi-Class Endurance Championship was finished. I could have made this video back then, and I was waiting for the spring DLC, which never came, and then I thought, okay, well, I've waited already, so I might as well just wait for the summer DLC, and then that was later than it normally was. The Los Santos Summer Special, it was a little bit later than, the usual July time for a summer DLC. So, it's been a long time coming, this video, but finally here it is. Muscle Cars 2020, all up to date from start to finish with every single muscle car in the game, or at least every single car in the Muscle Cars class in the game. Talking of, vehicles that are in the wrong class or really could be elsewhere instead of the muscle class, we of course have to talk about the Mañana Custom. The original Mañana is in the Sports Classics class. The Mañana Custom is brand new with this DLC, and for some reason, unlike the Peyote Custom, they decided to make the Mañana Custom not be a Sports Classics car and put it into the Muscle class instead. Quite why that is the case, who knows, but it is only good enough for 40th place in the class, kind of around the same pace as a lot of these vehicles here. That these sorts of lap times are nothing special, 1 minute 15s, 16s, 14s, it's pretty slow, and even taking into account sort of old muscle car levels of lap times back in the day, the old vehicles from 2013 would still be getting lap times that are a good couple of seconds quicker than this. So this is standard middle of the road muscle car territory, and one of the benefits, I suppose, of having the sheer number of vehicles that the Muscle Cars class has is that you do get a lot of cars naturally close together. We saw the same with the Sports class as well. Sports class has over 70 vehicles. The Muscle class has over 60 vehicles if you include the non-raceable vehicles as well. And then a natural consequence of that is that you get a lot of cars that just naturally get close lap times. For example, the Vigero and the Gauntlet Classic here, very, very close in terms of lap time, also very close in terms of the way that they handle and feel to drive. Buccaneer only a couple of tenths of a second quicker than that. A lot of cars that are on pace with each other, and it allows you to limit your selections to say, you know, a 1 second or 2 second difference in lap time, and have a lot of cars to choose from, which is actually pretty interesting. And you can sometimes see close to 20 cars separated by just 2 seconds per lap at various points during the course of this video and the muscle cars class in general. So yeah, and it kind of brings to light how important the tier lists are that we've developed throughout this year, with such that you can say, let's race with muscle D tier, and there's 6 or 7 vehicles there that are all very close and very competitive in terms of performance with each other, but you wouldn't otherwise be able to race if you weren't reducing that selection down. So yeah, brovie.com/GTA5 tiers if you want to see all the information about that. It does give some great racing when you restrict yourself to those specific tiers. So we're coming up to seeing what's going to break into the top 20, and these sort of vehicles that we're seeing at this stage, the Slam Van Custom, the Redwood Gauntlet, again, these were never quite on the top pace even when they were released, and we didn't have the really quick vehicles at the top of the class that we do now. But these are relatively good lap times that we're starting to see now. 1 minute 10s, that's not too bad. And we're going to see a lot of vehicles around this area that get those similar lap times as well. Now, just breaking into the top 20 are actually the 2 new cars from the Los Santos Summer Special DLC. We've got the Deviant, first of all, in 20th place. Horrible car to drive. A lot of the muscle cars from the Arena War DLC are, forget about those. But then we've got in 19th place, first of all, the Bravado Gauntlet Classic Custom. Certainly a hell of a lot quicker than the Gauntlet Classic with a 1 minute 10.5, but nowhere near on the pace of being, one of the top cars in the class. It does have good straight line speed, as we'll see from the top speed testing video which partners this, but it just doesn't have the ability in the corners. The Beta Dukes, on the other hand, is a little bit better in the corners, does have a lot of body roll though. A 1 minute 10.4, it's only 1/10 of a second quicker than the Gauntlet Classic Custom, but both of them only just break it into the top 20. They're not going to be winning any muscle car races anytime soon against the cars that we're going to see at the end of this video. And obviously the Beta Dukes, it's slower than the Duke of Death, as you can see right here, and we haven't seen the regular Dukes in this list yet, so the Beta Dukes is certainly the slowest of the Dukes variations, if you like, and I guess that's to be expected since it is meant to be a beaten up version. But yeah, I guess a bit of a shame that it didn't have just a massive engine behind it with a crazy top speed or something like that, but hey, that is what it is. And like I said, we will be seeing the top speed testing video for these muscle cars, the 2020 version, later on, and if you're watching this later, you can check the playlist links down below in the description to get that. We're in some really interesting territory now with the lap times. The Ruiner used to be, back in 2013, one of the top cars you could use for muscle car racers. Only just in 15th now, but there's a lot of vehicles around here that are very interesting to drive. They get very similar lap times, and again, that same sort of thing. Ignore the Vamos, by the way. Awful car to drive, probably the worst car to drive in the game. It will randomly steer left and right every time you hit a bump. Forget that exists. But all of the other cars around here, the Coquette Blackfin, the Gauntlet Hellfire is a really beautiful car to drive, even though they're not on the pace with these 1 minute 9 lap times of the very top cars. They've all got their own interesting nuances in terms of handling abilities and performance. The Dukes, for example, obviously a lot quicker than the Beta and the Duke of Death, but it's better around the corners and lacks a bit of top speed. The Coquette Blackfin has some really good acceleration. The Ruiner's got the top speed. The Gauntlet Hellfire's got the top speed as well. A lot of cars, and this is what I was alluding to earlier, that you can restrict yourself to a certain tier of muscle car that includes just these vehicles that we're seeing in these 5 or 6 positions, and have some really, really fun and interesting races with a wide variety of cars. So obviously breaking into the top 10, we had the Tulip there, just about managing it, and then we've got an old vehicle, the Blade, still managing to be hanging on in 9th place. Really good acceleration on the Blade. Obviously it doesn't corner quite as well as some of the other vehicles in the muscle cars class, and certainly not as good as the old original OG Dominator that gets a lap time of 1 minute 9.0, so it's about 0.2 of a second quicker than the Blade. Has a better top speed, so again you got that mix where you can have a Dominator going up against a Blade, and different tracks will suit different cars and all that kind of stuff. Slightly slower than the Dominator GTX, the newer version, that is only 0.3 of a second quicker, but the Dominator GTX has some incredible traction around the corners. It's basically a sports car in the muscle cars class, but it really lacks with top speed. It's so bad in terms of top speed that it's kind of well balanced with, you know, the regular Dominator, depending on the track that you use. The Impaler here in 6th place, just missing out on the top 5. I kind of forgot about this car, to be honest. It does get a pretty decent lap time for the muscle cars class, you know, just outside of that top 5. It's pretty impressive, but again has the advanced handling flags that we've seen from a lot of muscle cars from that kind of DLC era, and it's not very nice to drive. On the other hand, the Drift Yosemite, which is a decent amount quicker to take that 5th place spot, is a much nicer driving experience, but it's just lacking a little bit of overall pace to make it onto the top 4. And it's really the top 4 in the muscle cars class where we see a bigger gap and a bigger difference, and the top 4 really stretch their legs and shine over and above everything else. So first up in 4th place is the Clique with a 106.8, and that 106.8 isn't really we're not gonna see much improvement on that over the course of the next 4 vehicles, because the top 4 are separated by only 1/10 of a second, and really you could choose any of these top 4 in a muscle cars race and be competitive. Obviously an open muscle cars race where you're not restricting yourself to any other vehicles. Sabre Turbo Custom here in 3rd place with a 106.8, again only fractionally quicker than the lap time from the Clique. And this is the beauty of at least the top 4 and things that I've been talking about during this video, where you can take multiple different cars and use them competitively against each other if you restrict yourself. Normally that isn't the case when you get to the very top cars in the class for other classes. There's normally 1 or 2 vehicles that are just far and away quicker than everything else. The muscle cars class for a long time now has had 4 vehicles at the top that are all very competitive with each other. They've all got their own strengths and weaknesses. We've got the Pisswasser Dominator here in 2nd place, which, you know, we will, like I said, see the top speed testing for the Muscle Cars 2020 top speed testing video will show you just how well these vehicles do in terms of top speed as well. And it is quite a varied list. It's quite different to how they do around the corners and around the track. But a 106.7, it's only 1/10 of a second quicker than what we just saw around the track, but it's got a much better top speed than the other vehicles around it. Whereas, for example, the Clique and the Sabre Turbo Custom tend to have better cornering ability. The Clique's got a little bit better acceleration, but ultimately there is one car that tends to put it all together better than anything else, and that is our number 1 vehicle that ultimately gets the best lap time. It is the regular Yosemite. At this point, feel free to subscribe if you haven't already for regular lap time and top speed testing videos and updates when new cars are released, and check out other classes in the playlist. So the regular Yosemite, it's only, again in terms of lap time, fractionally quicker than what we just saw from the Pisswasser Dominator. It doesn't feel like it does any single thing better than the 3 vehicles that we've just seen. It doesn't corner quite as well as the Sabre Turbo Custom or the Clique. It doesn't have the top speed of the Pisswasser Dominator. It doesn't have the acceleration of the Clique, but it puts it all together into a package well enough and does all of those aspects well enough that in most situations the Yosemite is going to be a good choice. On a high traction circuit, for example, you're probably going to want to take the Clique or the Sabre Turbo Custom. On a high top speed circuit, you're probably going to want to take the Pisswasser Dominator. But in general, overall, the Yosemite will more often than not give you the best lap time for, you know, the majority of tracks, and even in those tracks where it's not quite at the very top, it will give you a base to compete with the other vehicles that may be slightly better in certain situations. So overall, the Yosemite is the best. We are going to see the comparison between the Yosemite and the Slam Van, number 1 versus number 56, and it is quite a big difference in terms of lap time. But yeah, like I said, you can take any of the top 4. So when it comes to picking your muscle car of choice, the Pisswasser Dominator is probably the hardest one to drive. So you're gonna want to try each of these vehicles out, test them out, see what works best for you, and ultimately go with that one. Because really, any of the top 4 can be competitive in a muscle cars race. As soon as you go beyond that top 4, even to 5th place with the Drift Yosemite and beyond that, you are lacking in other areas enough that a good driver in one of the top 4 vehicles, you won't be able to do anything against him. So restrict your selection to the top 4, but in the end, choose one of the top 4 that suits your driving style and the way that you drive, and suits that best and is the best for you, and you get the best lap times out of, because ultimately that's what's going to decide a race in the muscle cars class more so than anything else, because the top 4 are just that close. So that's pretty much it for this one. Like I said, it has been a long time coming, but we finally got the 2020 muscle cars video done. For lap time at least. Top speed video will be coming shortly as well, where we'll go through every car in the muscle cars class for top speed. And it is like I said, it is quite different, so keep an eye out for that one as well. And like I said, check the playlists down below in the description for all of the vehicles for lap time and top speed, all tested. There's playlist links that give you all the videos that are all organized at the very top of those playlists. So that's pretty much it for this one. Like I said, thank you guys so much for watching. Consider supporting on Patreon or become a YouTube member if you want to get testing results early. And remember to read the description for more info, comment with your thoughts, like the video if you enjoyed it, found it helpful, and subscribe for more. Thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.